Welcome to the Run Selfie Repeat podcast, everybody. This is a very exciting day. In real time, it's September 1st, 2024, and this is a new series. BQ or Bust is back. I want to try to qualify for the Boston Marathon again, but here's the thing. We're doing a layover because qualifying for the Boston Marathon is a very long-term goal. We're talking September, October, November, January, February, March, possibly April, 7 months, maybe May, June, July, August, September, October, maybe 13 months. I don't know. But I can tell you that I want to try to qualify for the Boston Marathon again. And we're doing a layover with Project 159. This little 12-week mini series inside of BQ or Bust, where the first little test is to see if I can break 2.5 marathon, because right now I know I can't. If someone said to me, Kelly, tomorrow, $1 million is yours if you can break 2.5 hours marathon, I physically couldn't do it, right? There's one thing not believing in yourself, and there's another thing of like having delusion. And I know physiologically speaking where I'm at with my running, and I could not break 2.5 hours marathon. I think I could get 2:07 maybe. I think I could make that happen, but 2 hours is probably not. Maybe 2:05, but not 2. But 12 weeks, I do think if I train really specifically that I might be able to make it happen. I also don't know if that's a safe goal, if that is something I'm going to surpass. I don't know. I'm excited to try, and I'm excited to get into it. But for those of you who don't know, 2016, I started this vlog series called BQ or Bust. I had just broke 4 hours in the marathon, and by running 3:59 and change. And I went to see the Boston Marathon for the first time, and I was sitting at dinner at a bar with some friends. One of them had just ran the marathon, and she was like, Kelly, I don't know why you don't try to do this. Why don't you do Boston? Try to qualify. And I was like, I could never take myself seriously enough to try to qualify for the Boston Marathon. Up until that point, I had a very hard time with outcome goals. I had a lot of insurance policies. I had a huge fear of failure, right? And I was sharing everything. So failing in front of people was my worst fear. I was perfectionist, people pleaser. I'm still a people pleaser. I'm working on it. But perfectionism is something I don't need anymore. I have no desire in perfectionism, but it's still hard. It's still hard stuff. Long story short, I vlogged this whole thing. I spent the next from May, June-ish through October trying to qualify for the Boston Marathon, training really hard, running speed work for the first time, working with a coach for the first time, and I ended up doing 3:42. So huge PR. Could not have been prouder of myself. And it was the first time I finished, and I was like, I got this. Okay, next time, I got this. I can do it. So I continued training. Even though I had the beginnings of an overuse injury, I ran the New York City Marathon with a really great opportunity a couple weeks later, which I should not have done. I don't regret it because it was so much fun, but it definitely hurt me. It hurt me more. And instead of rehabbing that injury, I went straight back into training for the London Marathon, where I wanted to try again. I took like a month or two off, but I did not rehab that injury. And it kind of was like a fire that I kept contained, but I never put out. And a month and a half before the London Marathon, piriformis syndrome, I had a couple of issues, and it popped up, and my PR attempt was out the window. I still ran really strong, but I didn't get the race I wanted, and I really struggled the entire time. Tons of walking, was in my head, just felt like a total idiot for wasting this opportunity to run London. And then that's when I started working with Nike. I got to do Project Moonshot, even though I was not trying to BQ at the New York City Marathon that year. I was able to like rehab my injury, train to run New York, have a really fun race, enjoy it. The next year, I tried in Chicago again, third attempt, season 3. And that's where I got my PR 3:37. Huge PR. No, I'm lying to you. That year of London, I did not run a fall marathon. The next year I did New York. The next year I did Chicago season 3. Or yeah. And that's where I got my 3:37. So it was a bit longer than what I just said. That's what happened. Long story short, I was really proud of myself, but I didn't think I'd ever want to try again. I didn't want to put myself through it. It was so much work. It really flared up an eating disorder. I spent a good 2-3 years just like really struggling. And I promised myself after I crossed that finish line that I was going to take the next few years, no marathons. I was going to get healthy. I was going to get back into therapy and really work on this. And I did. But then 2020 happened and everybody had to do it with me. So I got healthy, really healthy. I became a coach in 2019, and my coaching business, all the training experiences, everything started happening. I got to run a marathon in 2021, but my way. It took me 7.5 hours maybe. I did it the way I've always wanted to do it, which was run the New York City Marathon and stop whenever I saw friends, hang out with them. And then when I saw someone I knew, I would jump back in with them until I saw friends. And then I would stop, and I did that the whole way. And it was so much fun. I had so much fun that I had so much extra energy that I was able to finish, run a mile to Columbus Circle, change, go back out and run another like 5K with people. I mean, it might have even, I did over 30 something miles that day, and I felt amazing. So it was amazing. It was everything I needed. It filled my soul in the way I wanted. It was a disgusting day, so hot. So I was really grateful for that, because it meant that whatever little like, take this seriously, like I couldn't. It was so disgustingly hot and no one was heat acclimated, but it was a really magical day. And mostly I wanted to do that because I wanted to see if I could train for a marathon without eating disorder stuff creeping back in. And with the help of my therapist, like I really was able to do it on my terms and not focus on trying to run hard, trying to run fast, but to like really enjoy the process and be okay with where I was and building strength and feel really strong. And I did that and I felt amazing. The next year, last year, I got into triathlons. I did my first half Ironman, and that was incredible. And that was like fed my soul in a way that I didn't know like it could. It was so rewarding, but it was so much work. Training for a half Ironman is the hardest thing in the whole entire universe. It was so much time. The half Ironman race itself, I thought was easier than a marathon, like easier on your body. Definitely difficult. I'm not saying it wasn't difficult, but it just felt easier on my body. Like when I finished, I could walk, I could do stuff. I wasn't as sore. Whereas when you run a marathon, you feel like you got ran over by a car. And a month later, we went to Chicago, and I watched the race and thought, like, I think I'm ready to try again. And I was like, okay, just sit with that. You don't need to tell anyone anything. You don't need to make any decisions. January came, and I was like, I still really want to try. And I was like, great, then let's try to get faster. Let's spend this year getting faster and seeing what happens. September, here we are. I still want to. The last couple of months, like that desire has only gotten stronger, and in a way that makes me smile. I'm in such a different place. And that being said, I'm really nervous. I know too much now. It is such a different thing to go into it and not really understand how training works and not really understand how speed work works and the point of it all, and to doubt yourself so much. But then, you know, like over time, right? Like by my second and third attempt, like I didn't doubt myself anymore, but I still didn't understand how training worked. I didn't understand how a block works, how the different phases of training worked. I didn't understand how to see in my training that I could do it, that I could possibly do it. So now I have the mental game and I have all of the know-how of training. I understand it differently. So I'm more scared now because physically I'm in a different place. Mentally I'm in a different place, which is, I think is a pro, but I still have limitations. I'm running 11-minute miles on average, conversational pace, like on good days, you know, like I'm starting to see 10:30s to 11s, but I still need to get significantly faster, build a ton of aerobic fitness. Aerobic fitness is all the physiological benefits that you need to be able to run a marathon, to run endurance races. I still need so much to happen before I can even say it's worth it to do a marathon training block and try to qualify for Boston, which is why we're starting with this 12-week block of Project 159, breaking 2 in the half, which is wild because that was like my first really, really big goal. But talking about insurance policies that I mentioned earlier, right? Like, I didn't want to just commit. I didn't want to pick a training plan because I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't think I belonged, and all this stuff was there. I didn't think I could do it. Every single race, like I would half commit. So it's fun to come back to it knowing that, I mean, my half marathon PR is 1:42. And to think a 2-hour breaking 2 1:59 is so scary to me. So much scarier than that 1:42 felt is wild. Right? But it's the same thing, an all-out effort, regardless of if it's a 4-hour half marathon, a 2-hour half marathon, a 1-hour 42-hour half marathon. An all-out effort is an all-out effort. It is the same across the board. If you look at the heart rate data, it'll look the same. It's all the same, right? This is why fast and slow, it's all relative. It's all totally relative. The only thing that you can do is give your personal best effort. So I think it'll be really fun to share this journey in this way and frame it in the context of how is this all happening? Why is this all happening? The context as a running coach, because I'm a running coach now and I know what I'm doing, which is so different than the last times I did this, right? Like the last time you were watching a runner who didn't know what she was doing try to run down doubt. And now you're watching a running coach still run down doubt. There's a big doubt in me that I'm going to be able to do this. And there's definitely a fear of doing this and not even getting close. 100%. It's why I've made the announcement video like 3 times over the last couple of months, and I'm just too scared to share it, too scared to commit. And on last week's marathon coaching call with one of my marathon training experiences with the Badass Lady Gang, the whole call was really about like, be where you are, focus on today. Every day serves a purpose. Like this is the part of training where like things really start to matter. Recovery days really matter. Believing in yourself and doing the mental work that we are giving you, right, in these journals, and showing up for yourself and at least having the courage to say, I'm scared, but I'm still going to try, or I don't know if I can do this, but I'm still going to try. And I'm just going to give myself my personal best. The workout's not going the way it's supposed to on paper, but I'm still going to keep going. I'm still going to try and give myself my personal best. Like I couldn't say that out loud to everybody in this training experience, all my athletes, and then be off in the corner like, but I'm too scared to like share my goal because I don't know if I can do it. And I was like, okay, that's so silly. And my therapist and I have been talking a lot about this. Do I want to vlog it? Do I want to share it? Is this something I just want to do for myself? We've been talking about it, back and forth. She helped me get to a place where I was like, I do want to share this. I'm excited to share this. I'm excited to do this again. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the outcome is because nothing's guaranteed, right? If we learned anything from 2020, I feel like a broken record. We talk about this all the time in our coaching calls. Nothing's promised. Race day is not promised. The races could get canceled. There could be another pandemic. There could be fires. There could be weather outside of your control. Like anything could happen, right? You could get injured, whatever. Just because something's not guaranteed doesn't mean it's not worth trying and spending all this time growing and learning and applying yourself and just having fun in the process. So that's what we're doing, right? Do I have specific outcomes that I'm training for? I do, 100%. And I'm so, so excited to try. It's just an honor to try, right? How lucky am I that I get to try, to just try. If it takes me 2 years, great. If I do this once and I'm like, actually, my life has changed again, great. But right now, where I'm at, I want to try. There's a lot of things that are going to be happening soon. Allegedly in November, my track is going to open back up in Red Hook, right? It's been closed. This track in New York City, the only really track that's like in my area, has been closed since 2020. 4 years they've been working on this fucking track. It's driving me bonkers, but it's almost open again. So I'm excited to have a track again. That's going to be a huge, huge, important piece of the puzzle. I'm single. I broke up with my boyfriend last year, and I don't have the commitments that I used to have and the time constraints. I have the time to do this. I don't know how much longer I'll have the time to be selfish with my time and do this kind of stuff. So today's the day, right? Why not? But let's shift gears. Now that that's out of the way and you know what we're doing, let's talk a little bit about starting from where you are. This week is all about starting from where you are. I want to talk about how to set a goal. I want to talk about long-term goals. I want to talk about short-term goals. I want to talk about the framework of the next couple of weeks, and then like what's realistic. So starting with how to set a goal, right? There is no such thing as like a good or bad goal. There's really just like what's lighting a fire inside of you. I remember before I ran my first marathon, I'm training for my first marathon. I'd only been running for 4 months. And I remember seeing on Twitter, Runner's World maybe tweeted out, like you really should run for a year before you train for a marathon. And I don't agree. I think physically you're probably in a better place running a marathon after some time running regularly, but you can run anything as long as there's enough time to do it. It doesn't take over a year to run a marathon, right? I would argue you need at least 6 months to go safely from couch to marathon. It really depends on your athletic level and your fitness level, but most people across the board, it takes at least 6 months. The more time you have, the more flexibility you have. Half marathon, you can go from couch to half marathon in 3 months, right? 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months, you'll definitely have a better time, but you could absolutely do it in 3. You can run a 5K in 8 weeks. You can run a 5K probably in 4 weeks. But it's less about what can you do in a short amount of time and more about like, why are you in a rush? How can you take the time that you need to show up for yourself the way you want to and to really enjoy the process of training? So starting from where you are means taking the time to take stock about where you are, what your last couple of weeks of training have been like. When you train with me, if you do one of my training experiences or you're on the team, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this intake form. It's how I customize your training plans. If you do one of my running plans, I don't get the opportunity to do this. You're just going to get a cookie cutter training plan. It's going to start you in whatever week it's going to start you in, right? If you're 10 weeks away from your race date, it's going to start you in week 2. And you have to be the one who scales your training back possibly to start you from where you are, which sucks. I wish that wasn't the case. One day, maybe hopefully one day soon, I'm going to have my own platform where we're going to figure this out. But for now, training experiences and our team members, this is how I start you from where you are. I'm able to look at what your last 3 weeks of training have been like. How much are you running? How little are you running? How much are you working out? Do I need to scale everything back so that we can really slowly and gradually increase, intensity, mileage, volume, that kind of stuff? Because you don't want to jump into a training plan with speed work if you haven't been running regularly. You want to make sure that you have a base. You want to make sure, think of running like building a house. Everybody watches HGTV. Who doesn't love watching a home renovation show? Can you build a house without a foundation? Yes, absolutely, right? But that house isn't going to be strong and that house isn't going to last. And you're going to have a hard time reselling it because you don't have permits. But you can definitely do it, right? You don't need permission. You could just start building. You're going to get in trouble, probably, but you can do it. Ideally, we want to spend 6 to 8 weeks of just slow, strong, steady running, building your aerobic base, right? That's your foundation, that your really, really strong foundation. Then from there, we get to go up. We get to start building. We get to start really doing a little bit of speed work, a little bit more volume. We get to start playing with speed, playing with intensity, doing all of that stuff. And meanwhile, yes, the whole time you've been doing strength work, you've been doing all the foundational stuff that's important. I like to use the analogy in the Badass Lady Gang when you train with me as coins in the coin jar. I always like to use the analogy of Disneyland because I love Disneyland and I'm a Disney adult, but everybody knows what it's like to go to a theme park. So let's imagine in 12 weeks, we're trying to go to Disneyland. We know how much money it takes to get through the gates of Disneyland. Let's say for just like easy, it's $100. So we're saving $100. You can go to Disneyland and not buy anything else, right? So $100 is the goal. A lot of people will do under $100 of training, right? So if we think that like every single thing that we do, we're putting coins in the coin jar, you can show up on race day with less than the amount of money that you need to get in. Now, if you have $50, you're going to be begging a lot to get that extra $50 to get it through the gates versus $90 where you just need to find $10 to get through the gates. But someone eventually will give you $10. Maybe if you post about it on social, someone will Venmo you. Maybe if you just ask people around you and really sell your case, you'll get through it. Same thing on race day. A race day is run with heart, right? Physically, yes, but also heart. It's okay to go into race day a little bit undertrained. For a lot of people, it's actually more, I'd rather as a coach have you be a little bit undertrained than overtrained, right? A training plan does more than get you $100. We're going to get at you so that with your strength work, your cross training, your running, all the different pieces of the puzzle, you're going to be able to get through the gates. You're going to be able to get a couple meals, maybe get a souvenir, right? So there's a lot that can happen in those 12 weeks, but the amount of coins that you'll put in that coin jar will vary from person to person based on the amount of time you have, based on where you're starting from, based on what happens in those 12 weeks, right? There's a lot of stuff that's outside of your control, your obligations to your work, your obligations to your family, the weather, anything that can happen will happen, right? But the hardest part about running something like a half marathon or a marathon is training for it. So, coins in the coin jar. How do you set a goal? One of the best things that you can do is first and foremost, you do want to ask yourself, like, what do I want out of this training experience? Do you want to get faster? Do you want to get stronger? Do you want to get mentally stronger? Do you want to connect with people? I want you to take stock of like, what are the things that you want out of this cycle? And then making sure that you're getting the right resources to help you make those things possible. For me, Project 159, our little layover on our way to BQ or Bust, I want to break 2. So if I know conversational pace, I'm running 11-minute miles. And I know from a previous race, the last time I all out raced was a 5-miler and I was able to hold like 9:10s. A realistic goal, I think, looking at that, is 2 hours. I think in 12 weeks, that's a realistic goal. Now, what I don't know is if 155 is something I'm going to be able to do, or 2. I don't know. I may not even be able to do 2. I don't know. I haven't raced a half marathon since 2019. So it's been a very long time since I've done this. So that's kind of how you set a goal. It's okay if it's a little audacious. It's okay if it's a moonshot goal, right? Like my biggest goal, my long-term goal, a goal that is not in the near future, is trying to qualify for Boston. And as someone who's right now running 11-minute miles, it feels very moonshotty to try to run a 2-hour oh my God, kill me, a 3-hour, 35-minute marathon, right? When, yeah, that's just bananas. That is an audacious, seemingly impossible goal. So that's why we have this layover. In 12 weeks, I'm going to do this race. I'm going to check in, hopefully, if I'm healthy, if I can stay healthy. How am I doing that? Strength work, drills, dynamic warm-ups, listening to my body, being smart about my build, getting my soft tissue work, all of the things that are inside of my control I'm planning to do, right? I'm going to do those things. And if I'm able to make it to race day healthy and I can race, we'll have a better idea of where I'm at physically and what I could do by March or April, or if I need to shift to a fall marathon of 2025. So right now my goal is spring 2024, but it may not be realistic. We won't know until I get this check-in in 12 weeks. So right now, long-term goal, you could say my half marathon is a long-term goal, but oftentimes long-term goals are very long-term, right? Right now, I'm excited about my half marathon. There's a lot of adrenaline. There's a lot of like internal vibrations going on, but that's not going to last, right? This external goal that I have to run a half marathon is not enough to motivate me throughout training. So I want to set shorter term goals for me to check in and continuously work. So some of them are going to be process based. Some of them are going to be outcome based. In 8 weeks, I have a time trial, Sleepy Hollow 10K. It's a Halloween 10K that I think my friends all think we're running for fun, but no, I'm racing it. Why not? It's a great opportunity for me to check in and see where I'm at before, with like a month left of training before my half. So that's a short-term goal that I have, because 8 weeks flies by in the blink of an eye. So that's long-term goal, BQ. Another longer-term goal that I have, half marathon. Short-term goal, 8 weeks, Sleepy Hollow 10K. Short-term goal, this week only, I look at my schedule, right? We can look at my schedule right now. That today, Monday, I have 60 minutes of running, and then already I have week 1 strength. I know I'm not going to do that today, so we're going to move it to tomorrow. Already making changes. Tuesday, I've got a speed play day. I'm doing a lot of repetition work. These first 4 weeks, I'm playing with spicy, hard efforts and hill repeats. I'm working on really building that top end speed. So we have some repetition pace stuff, because I have a very, very strong base. But I still want to spend the first 2 weeks of this block just playing with a little bit more repetition pace before we move into interval pace. And then I'm moving more into like phase 2, 3 of training, because I've been training for 8 months. And then I have a flex day, I think. Hold on, this camera's in the way. Yeah, I have a flex day, so hopefully I will be getting on my bike. And then I have a speed play day. I have hill repeats, then and strength work. And then I have a rest day, which I might turn into a ride. And then I have a long run of 70 minutes. And then I have another flex day, so I can either ride, strength train, or ride and strength train for X amount of time. So that's week 1. So I'm focusing on checking all the boxes. My first A goal is to do all 4 of those runs and at least 1 bike ride, right? That's my A goal. My B goal, can I do all 4 of those runs and 2 bike rides? Can I do all 4 of those runs, 2 strength training sessions and 1 bike ride, right? And then the C goal is 4 runs, 2 strength training days, right? I'm just looking ahead, looking at my schedule. I pull up the weather. I look at the weather. I move my schedule around based on, like, I'm a baby. I don't want to run if it's crazy, crazy hot. Luckily, it doesn't look like it's going to be crazy hot any of these days. I have the flexibility of moving my schedule around. This is not realistic for most people. It is realistic for me because I am a single girl. So I have that luxury. But most of the time I'll tell my athletes, suck it up, buttercup, and do your best, because you don't know what's going to happen on race day. And I will do that a fair amount, but I still am just like dying for the fall running glow up. So the sooner that comes, the better, right? So what's realistic? I don't know. I don't know what's realistic. I don't know if I'm going to blow 2 out of the water. I don't know if I'm barely going to get 2. I think I'll have a better idea in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We'll see. Right now, my biggest fear is that I know too much. I know too much. I don't know if my timeline is realistic. I don't know if a spring marathon trying to qualify is possible. I don't. I just don't. I don't want to wait 12 weeks to know. I'd rather know now. But it is what it is. I have to be patient. I have to. But let's see what happens. I'm excited to try. I'm excited to train. I'm excited to vlog again. I'm excited to share every like new thing that comes up in training here on the podcast. So every Monday, there'll be a new episode of the Run Selfie Repeat podcast, and I'll get to share my training with all of you. BQ Robust, season 4. Here we go with a layover, a little stop in Project 159. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Kick ass. Take names. Bye.